Most people spend their entire life working, but almost zero time learning how to manage what they earn. And these mistakes cost hundreds of thousands or even millions to families. And because wealth is not created by working more, but by learning how to manage it, in this video, I will give you an introduction into wealth management. So we will see how the rich keeps being richer and how they keep their money for generation and generations. So these are the principles used by the rich and by traditional wealth managers and wealth advisors. And if you stay until the end of this video, I will show you the one mistakes that destroy more wealth than any investment or bad investment will ever do. So here's one statistic to start with. Did you know that more than 60% of people receiving an inheritance lose everything after just one generation? And this is not because they are stupid, this is not because they didn't work hard, it is just because of a lack of education, a lack of information. So the information that they need and that you need, if you look at this video, is understanding wealth management. So what is wealth management? Wealth management is organizing your life, your assets, and your investments so that they work for you long term. So we can think of it like building a house. Building a house, you don't start with the window, right? You start with the foundation first and foremost. And the thing is that, for example, if you watch this video and you think about, oh, should I invest in Bitcoin? Should I invest in stocks? You are starting with the windows. We need to go back to the foundation. The foundation, even before deciding on which investment you will do, you need to have a clear structure, a clear plan, a clean foundation for your wealth. So in wealth management, we are working with three pillars. Write them down. There is tax efficiency, asset allocation, legal structure. So we're not even talking about what to invest in. Without these three pillars, any investment is kind of irrelevant, because how you own your assets is more important than what you own. Let me repeat that. How you own your assets are more important than what you own. For example, a lot of beginners have started investing in cryptocurrencies back in 2020 during COVID, right? At first you can think it was a good idea, but this is not what they have invested in that is important, it's how they did. And most of them, if not the majority, have used traditional exchanges, so platforms like Binance, to invest in crypto. And in 2022, the second largest exchange in the world, FTX, went bankrupt. More than $8 billion worth of the client's beginner money just disappeared like that. So again, it's not what you own, so in that case crypto, but how you own it. So people who have used FTX have lost everything. This is the how. But people who have used, for example, self-custodial wallet, a hardware wallet like Ledger Keys or Bitbox, have not lost anything. In the contrary, they have made more money. So now, if this topic is interesting for you and you want to know more about wealth management and Bitcoin, this is the channel for it. My name is Abel Raberin, and if you're interested to getting more knowledge, even I invite you to go in the description and click on the link. We will start with, as I said, the three pillars: legal structure, tax efficiency, asset allocation. But first, let me start with one definition of an asset. So an asset is anything that you own that is bringing you more money or increase in value over time. So an asset is something that either put money directly in your pocket or grows in value and give you more purchasing power in the future. For example, real estates are a good way of investing your money that generates rent, so the rents are going into your pockets, right? You have shares of companies that are giving you dividends. You have good business that producing income. You have gold that store value and give you more purchasing power in the long run. You have fractions of Bitcoin held in self-custody that is giving you more purchasing power in the long term as well. You have also as an asset intellectual properties that we often forget, but books, patent, online course, even a YouTube channel is considered as an asset. You can find that funny, but when I talk with a notary, one of the main question, it comes in the first 5 minutes when you go talk to a notary is, does this person have a YouTube channel, a social media presence? Because when someone dies, now in the modern age, we are looking at those things as an asset as well. Also, cash or savings can be considered as an asset. So an asset is a store of value. It's a store of past work or decisions that are still working for you. So you work for money once, okay? You get an income and you convert that money into an asset. Now the asset is working for you in the long term. This is why the rich are not working for money. They're not working for income. They are working to get an income and put as much as possible of that income into assets. Assets generating cash flow or assets growing in value over time. The real question is not what is wealth management, but why does it matter to you today and why does it matter so much? Because the financial world today is becoming more complex. Everything is moving way faster. Everything is becoming global and uncertain. We know, if you look at my channel, you probably heard me saying that inflation is the worst thing ever in terms of your finances and how you should protect yourself against inflation. So currencies are losing value in real time every day. And traditional financial institutions like your bank, for example, always propose you products that benefit them way more than they benefit you. And sometimes they are even benefiting them without benefiting you, which is even worse. And that's one of the reasons why I left traditional banking, the traditional financial system. So many entrepreneurs, maybe like yourself, spend 20 years dedicating on working, creating value and following your purpose, I hope, but working never built a real wealth engine, a real financial strategy. So that's where now this video, giving you an introduction of wealth management and the mindset around it, will give you the right tools moving forward. Again, in terms of asset allocation, people in the traditional system or wealth advisor will tell you to diversify your portfolio. So your portfolio is everything that you own or everything that you will own. And so what they say is in order to reduce the risk, we want to have multiple assets. So for example, real estate, financial markets, so shares, stock markets, right? Private investment, that can be investing in private equity, companies that are not listed publicly. It can be cryptocurrency with Bitcoin or fractions of Bitcoin. Bitcoin represents, of course, something very unique. This is the first time in human history that you have access to a monetary system with a fixed supply, independent from any institution or any banks. You can think of Bitcoin like a lifeboat in a storm. You may never need it, but if there is a storm, you will be very happy to have it. That's what will sustain you. You can imagine that the financial system, with almost every assets, every investment in the world, are linked to the traditional financial system. So for example, if I talk to you about real estate, is directly linked to governments, and governments are directly linked to banks and central banks. Okay, so that's why in 2008, when the real estate bubble exploded, everything collapsed in the economy. So let's say that even today, traditional financial system is the Titanic, okay? Currently, the system is looking okay from the outside, even though you have the United States having crossed the bridge of having more than $38 trillion in debt, and most European countries are also with an insolvent debt, so they will never be able to pay back. Just imagine that we are living in that system, and so they are on the bridge of collapsing, and so it's like the iceberg, and the Titanic is going closer and closer to that iceberg. Bitcoin here is being proposed to you as a lifeboat. You still have a chance of surviving if you jump on that lifeboat as fast as possible and the correct way. So in a moment, I will show you how beginners can start organizing and structuring their wealth correctly. Before that, if you would like to not be alone in your journey of investing in Bitcoin, I also have a community where we come together every Thursday. We have a group called on Zoom, people from all over the world just joining and not being alone in this journey. Just click on the link on the description again, follow me on social media, and we can discuss about that. So how to structure your wealth? First, what we need to do is to map your assets. You take a notebook, pen and paper, you write down everything that you own. Real estate minus the debt, cash, savings, investment, if you have a business, if you have business equities on other businesses, if you already invest in Bitcoin, or if you already invest in other things, if you have a car that is completely paid off, again, the assets are minus the debt. So at least now you can manage to see properly everything that you own, and we cannot manage what we cannot see. Then I want you to ask yourself who actually manage or own those assets. So this is the step 2. This is understanding ownership. It might sound silly. You might say, I paid for it, so it's mine. It depends. Again, if you are in a relationship, if you're married, for example, most of the people don't know that we can marry with a contract, so they marry without a contract. So what happens when you marry someone without a contract? Everything that you buy is considered the property of both you and your wife or your husband. So even if you buy Bitcoin, let's say you start buying fraction of Bitcoin. If tomorrow a divorce would happen, or even death, this is half the property of your wife or half the property of your husband. But also maybe you bought some things with your company, so you have a limited liability company, so maybe it is the property of the company and not yours. I'm not saying that it's bad or wrong. I'm just saying map out every asset that you have and map out who owns what. We will need those information in order to have a tax efficient strategy at some point. Then we talked already about asset allocation. So the traditional wealth advisor would tell you to diversify, to have real estate, cars, gold, blah, 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 Bitcoin. This is the traditional way. As you know, I left the traditional way. So for me, anything that is giving you less than Bitcoin, so everything, is not worth your time, money, energy. So that's why I'm creating this content for you, so that you understand and you increase your level of conviction on Bitcoin. So diversification is a way of saying I am buying the loser and selling the winner. That's basically what you do. Or every time, you can think of it like this. Every time that you are putting your money in something else than Bitcoin, you have an opportunity cost, because Bitcoin is giving you more if you had invested in it. So it's almost half of the video, and I haven't told you who I am. So my name is Abel Raberin. I'm an international wealth manager. I have a master's degree in international wealth management. I have a bachelor's degree in economics. I have one of the first crypto degree, so cryptocurrency degree, official degree in the entire world. For years, I teach people like you how to start investing in Bitcoin the right way. Yeah, you can follow this YouTube channel if you want more information about wealth management and international wealth management. So what does it mean? We live in a world that is more and more global. Probably you like to travel. Probably you have invested in another country than where you live. Maybe you want to live somewhere else. Maybe you have lived somewhere else. Maybe you have a company that has international clients. Maybe you have children that are traveling around or even living abroad or will live abroad or study abroad. All of that has international component, and there is tax information to understand about your situation, but also regulation in general. And so people lost a lot of money. I'm not even talking about inheritance. When a family that is international, someone's dying in that family, it can be really, really tricky. It can take a lot of time, energy, and money to pay the lawyers and everything to have a clean inheritance. So all of that will be knowledge that you will find in my YouTube channel. Then, before thinking about investment, as I said, we need to know who legally owns the assets. Who control it? How is it taxed? Or where is it taxed? Who will inherit the assets? For example, people who are in a relationship but not married, they have not prepared to plan their inheritance. And so if they die tomorrow, if for example you have a girlfriend, but it has been, I don't know, more than 10 years and you haven't been married yet, if you die tomorrow, she might not be protected. She might not receive as much as you would want her to receive. So in France, for example, there is some rules in terms of inheritance. The children are going to inherit the majority of your wealth. And so if you want to protect your girlfriend, you need to make proper will where you will say that all the parts that you can decide where it goes, you can say all of that I want it to go to my girlfriend, or you can marry her in order to make sure that she will receive a lot more and she will be protected. What I want you to remember is that a great investment, so let's say you have picked the best performing assets over the last 20 years, the best investment into a bad legal structure can destroy 30 to 70% of the wealth through taxes, legal disputes, or forced sales. If you don't have any inheritance strategy, for example, and you bought a really nice property and you live in France or Germany or England is a good example as well, and you have not put in place a strategy for inheritance, a lot of your wealth will go to pay the inheritance fees, because England, your children will need to pay a lawyer in order to organize their inheritance. It can take years, it can cost a lot, and if your children don't have the money for paying the lawyers, or you haven't managed to give them the money before dying, they will need to sell the house, for example. And let's say that this is a time where the market is very bad, and even though your property is really nice, let's say at this particular time when you die, for the next 6 months or 2 years, the market is very bad and they are forced to sell at that time. They will sell at a loss and they will pay a lot also in taxes if there is no strategy. I talked about marriage regime, but this is the number one source of loss of money, and obviously the people getting rich in the middle are the lawyers and the countries when it comes to especially divorces. Talking about relationships and divorce, more than half of divorces are because of financial disputes. So money is a big problem, or it's a big concern in relationships and in families as well, not just intimate relationships. So by looking at this video, you are making yourself a gift and your family and your partner a gift, because the more educated financially you are, the more comfortable you are with this subject, the better your relationship, at least in regards to that subject. So I know that a lot of women are watching my content. This is perfect because normally women don't like to talk about money that much, or to learn about money that much, or investing and all of that. So by you being here learning, you will ease the paying for your partner, potential partner, future partner, or even actual partner, because the burden has been a lot on men. And we know that in 2026, in this century, it will not be possible for men to be as comfortable as our grandparents, who could sustain a family, an entire family, with one salary, working 50 hours per week. Today, a man working 100 hours a week cannot even sustain a couple. I'm not even talking about a family. So when men and women are working together and having financial education together, everything goes more smoother. Yeah. So this is why, again, when we talk about property ownership and mortgages, entrepreneurs like you should decide for separation of property regime in terms of legal structure, maybe holding companies or trust or foundations at some point. So the goal is to have a clear vision of the ownership, a clear strategy of the ownership. So regarding inheritance plan, without inheritance plan, you can consider that 30 to 50% of your wealth will go to the state, will go to the government in forms of taxes. I told you at the beginning of the video that it will cost hundreds of thousands or millions to people to not have a proper wealth management knowledge. There you go. Taxes without a clear inheritance strategy, you will lose half of your money. So, for example, if you have properties, one thing that I can be good to consider right now is to start giving ownership of your properties to your children or to the person you want to give to if something bad happened to you if you die. So we call that bare ownership, keeping the usufruct and giving the ownership. In theory, nothing changes. You still keep your house, you still keep your holding, you still keep your properties and everything. But legally, you start giving off rights in advance to your heirs so that you reduce or even you completely remove any inheritance tax in advance. You can also have family holding companies. In France, there is a specific legal structure where you can have all of the properties of the family inside that structure so that there is 0% inheritance tax. You can also have life insurances. So we talk about this subject a lot because that's how rich people have been richer generation after generations. Because if you have a good life insurance policy, if you die, actually what's happened is that the insurer is giving money to your heirs. So that's money that was not there at the beginning, but through this life insurance company, life insurance policy, your children will receive X amount of money if you die, and it stays in the family, right? So there is a lot of ways to legally remove taxes or reduce the tax burden and to transfer wealth through generations. So then, in terms of tax efficiency, also some information to have is that most beginners, maybe like yourself, look at gross returns when you look at an investment. So for example, let's say that you are investing in the stock market, the S&P 500, for example, would give you 8% per year, but this is the gross returns, and you need to look at the after-tax returns. So if your country tax 26% on capital gains, which is approximately what is done in Europe, it means that after tax, you will only have 5.9% returns, okay? And it looks small like that, 5.9 or 8%, but if we look at that over 30 years, if you have invested 100,000 euro over the 30 years period, on an 8% return, you get 1 million euro. On a 5.9% return, you get 558,000 euro, which is a huge difference. That's how tax inefficiency can destroy half of your wealth. So your wealth are going to be taxed in 3 different ways. You have tax on income, capital gain tax when you sell, and inheritance tax. And they are also talking about taxing unrealized gain. It will come probably at some point. With all of that, you realize that you are working more than 6 months, so more than half of every year, more than 6 months for the government, if we take all of those taxes without talking even about inflation. So we want tax efficient account, we want holding period. What you can consider is that the more long-term you invest in something, the best advantages you have in terms of taxes. So what we saw today is that the biggest mistakes people make with money is not choosing the wrong investment. The biggest mistake is confusing income with wealth, and even many people who are earning good money, they never transform that money into protected assets. So income, you can consider that this is temporary. Assets are permanent, and assets continue working for you over time, right? Now, today you learned something important, that wealth management is not about just investing, it's about building a coherent structure between your legal framework, your tax protection, and investment. So once that structure exists, then investment like Bitcoin, like real estate, like stocks can truly serve you, your future, and the future of your family and children. So if you want to go further, the next step is simple. I invite you to check the link in description, book a 15-minute free call with me. You can also follow me on my different social media, and I'm posting valuable content every single day, 3-4 times a day, for you to understand better wealth, money, Bitcoin. Yeah, I invite you to like the video, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.